Would I be the asshole if I didn't carry on a tradition of baby names? So I, 26 female, am engaged to John, 28 male. I'm super close with his family and he is with mine. I am also 6 months pregnant. Here's the issue. John's family has the weird tradition of naming the girls things like desire, confidence, wisdom, etc. John's sister is literally called Destiny and her daughters are called Inspiration and Courage. I'm not making these up. The boys have super normal names. Both John and I really want a girl, but I don't want to give her a name that fits with the ones previously mentioned. I brought this up to John's family at a dinner party and they all got super upset. They said this traditional was coined all the way back in the 1860s when their family became free. Apparently the first female in their family that was born free after 1860 was literally called Freedom, and so a tradition was born. They're putting a lot of pressure on me to pick a name that fits with theirs. John says that it means a lot to him, too. Would I be the asshole for not carrying the tradition? Nah, but you both get a say in naming. Is there any middle ground here? There are some names that are words with meanings but also sound like normal names: joy, grace, hope, charity, destiny. If none of those vibe with you, maybe they would be okay with a more traditional name that carries a similar meaning? Or there is always the middle name. You are not the asshole for how you feel, but you do need to find a name you like that also respects your partner's wishes. Edited to change my verdict, since I do not think anyone is an asshole here. Edited again. Wow, thank you for the awards. I love seeing the other name suggestions in the comments. You all have some good ones. No assholes here to the specific question posed in your title. YTA for announcing your intentions to not follow the tradition at your fiancé's family event when he doesn't agree. You don't get to make this decision unilaterally and dropping in, like an afterthought, that John wants to continue the tradition at the very end of your post is lame. Your conversation isn't with his family as a whole. They can butt right out now that they've explained the family tradition and its importance after you brought them into the naming conversation. You and John need to figure out what's going to work for you both. Also, I'm confused how this didn't come up pre-pregnancy if you're super close to his family and every woman has obvious names. If you didn't notice, then are you cherry-picking examples? As someone with a weird name, do not give your child a weird name. I don't care what his family tradition is or how cute you think it is. You are setting your child up for a lifetime of bullying and missed career opportunities by having a unique or unusual name. Buy him a goldfish to call Temperance. I'm not going to Thule on this, but maybe check out our Nomenards. They could help you find a nice virtue name, if you want a compromise. My suggestions would be Esperanza, hope, in Spanish, Verity, Felicity, Constance, or Iman, faith, in Arabic. For what it's worth, I think using a Maori virtue name is a really cute way to combine your heritages. Not the asshole, it's not their baby, so it's not their choice. However, if it's important to your fiancé, you may want to find a compromise. Hope would be a relatively normal name while fitting in with the tradition, along with faith and joy. No assholes here. Name her Rebel. Why not a Maori name? Your family traditions are just as important as his. Not the asshole. Some traditions need to be ended as they sound like those celebrities that inflict weird names on their offspring. You have the freedom to name your own daughter, based on your own inspiration. You are not bound by destiny to follow some tradition started 100 years ago, under completely different circumstances. Have the confidence and courage to follow your own family's tradition, not using these names. Seriously, I bet Freedom is turning over in her grave seeing her name being used to force people to do something they don't want to do. Not the asshole, but you can consider a compromise. Joy, Grace, Hope, Mary. There are normal names that fit their tradition. Who is giving the birth? You. Who made the child? You and your husband. Who gets to name the child? You and your husband. Since you are 6 months, do you know the gender? Or are you one of those, first one must be a surprise kind of people? Not the asshole. I have Puritan ancestors named Love, Faith, Hope, Perseverance, Chastity, Recompense. Zebulon, just to name a few. Love was the eldest son. Leave this tradition in the past if it holds no appeal to you. If we've given up mercury injections to cure STDs, I think we can say not all traditions are worth keeping around. Not the asshole. What about your family's traditions? You're carrying this child and you should have the final say. Baby naming really has to be a 2 yes 1 no situation. Stand up to them, they don't have a say in this debate. Not the asshole. It's your daughter too. If that's the tradition, then maybe have him make a list of all the possible names and pick one of them for a middle name, or if you like it enough, her first name, and you can pick the middle name. Nah. Baby names operate on a 2 yes, 1 no rule. If one partner doesn't like it, it's a no-go. Neither of you are the asshole for what you want in a baby name, but you've got to find a compromise. Maybe a middle name that follows the tradition instead? The folks at R. Namenards could probably help. Not the asshole. Tradition is just peer pressure from dead people. NTA. It's yours and your husband's child. Only you two decide what to name them. Yeah, others can have suggestions, but it's your choice in the end what to pick. Or maybe you can compromise if it gets too stressful, as maybe you can find a name that in a different language, religion has a deeper meaning and it isn't so blunt, like destiny, freedom, liberty, and so on. Not the asshole. You can always go full Terry Pratchett on their butts and insist that if you name the girls after virtues, you have to name the boys after sins. For every Charity Smith they get, they also get an adultery Smith. For every Liberty Jones, they also get a Gluttony Jones. Not to mention this is sexist as hell. Do you only give the girls unachievable ideals? I'm of the firm conviction that that is what middle names are for. Keeping up with strange naming tradition one parent is not hot on. Another compromise could be to pick one of those names and look up which traditional names have similar meanings. That might be another option. Not the asshole. I totally understand not wanting to have someone basically name your baby. I have a trio of relatives who were named Joy, Patience, and Hope. Lol, their dad named them after the fruits of the Spirit in the Bible. A solution though, to keep peace with your dear husband, is maybe give your baby girl second name that is closer to the family tradition. In the US it's common for middle names to be given. My name means wise warrior. I love it. But I wouldn't want my name to actually be Wise Warrior. Could choose something that fits their tradition, with no intention of using it, that is so outlandish that they think you'd be mad to use it. Circumstance, expectation, conclusion, inevitability. Not the asshole. You name your kid as you like. Tradition isn't something you have to live by. You can if you want to, but we live in 2021, we do what we want in life. They don't make you happy, it's you who has to stand for your own happiness. Not the asshole. But Rebel is a great name. Not the asshole. But isn't it possible to have a name like that as a middle name? There are so many options that wouldn't sound weird. Not the asshole. Your child, your choice. We have a family tradition of names as well. Arthur or James for the first son and Florence for the first daughter of the next generation. I'm the first girl and I have Florence as a middle name. I hate it, so when my daughter was born, first of the next generation, I refused to use it. My son, who was the first boy, I did use James as his middle name. The older generation weren't too happy, but I don't care, they got over it. Plus, when your child gets older they can choose to change their name. Not the asshole. But from the sounds of it you're going to have to decide if this is a battle you really want to engage in. His family is being ridiculous and illogical, and your fiancé may not support you if you are adamant about giving your daughter, if you have one, a more normal name. I would talk to your fiancé if you feel you really want to wage the fight on this one. And be prepared for a lot of potential headaches and possible heartache as well. Your daughter is not a Mars rover. Tell him to piss off. Not the asshole. It's your and your fiancé's child, and if you don't want the kid's name to sound like a part of a school exercise, then you don't have to name your kid like that. It's your child and not the child of someone from your fiancé's side of the family. This is not only your fiancé's decision. If you don't want that, it has to be respected. Not the asshole. If you wanted to, as a compromise, you could name her something that's both a virtue and a normal name, like Grace or Joy. But if you don't want to, it's your kid, and you have to think about whether the kid will be bullied for the name anyway. YWNBTA. Or rather, not the asshole. Go by a 2 yeses, 11 no rule. Unless both of you enthusiastically agree, it shouldn't happen. Just because John's family married people who agreed to go along with their family tradition, you and John are both starting your own family with your own traditions. If John isn't willing to back off about this, you may want to reconsider who you're marrying and what you're marrying into. I have the solution. If you have a boy, what name does your husband want? Take that name and make it a girl's name. Rick? Change it to Ricky for a girl. That way your husband gets his favorite name and you get to ignore this stupid tradition. Just know that you only have a say about your child's name for 18 years. Edit. Typo. Not the asshole, but you could compromise on having it as a middle name or maybe having a name with a meaning like wisdom such as Sophia. I get wanting to keep up traditions, but keeping them to the detriment of someone else's comfort is really not okay, and it's also weird. It's only a girl's thing, I must admit. Confidence, wisdom, inspiration and courage. No, not the asshole. I hope you do everything you can to save your kids from this tradition. Some traditions needs to die and this is one of them. Mostly not the asshole, as you and John should be the only ones who can decide on your daughter's name. However, this is definitely a conversation you should have had with John before having children. Ooh, it sounds like you've stepped in a black naming tradition, and given how often those are mocked in the US, they are going to be sensitive about it. I'm gonna say nah, you guys need to find a name that works for mom and dad, not grandma and grandpa. How does your fiancé feel about it? Maybe you two could compromise on a middle name that honors the tradition? I honestly think this is kind of an icky and sexist tradition. Not the asshole, because John needs to realize that your thoughts are important too and that kids aren't playthings with which to continue a dumbass tradition. Nah, but this is between you and John. The other people in the family's opinions do not matter. Stop discussing it with them. Nah. Consider non-English names that have those meanings. It will widen your choice. Hope can be Nadine in French and Esperanza in Spanish, for example. Amara means grace in Igbo. There's actually a ton of virtue names that you don't realize have those meanings in other languages. Not the asshole, but why did you talk to his family about it? That's just made them involved in what the baby will be called and caused way more arguments. What you name your child is between you and your partner. You should have had conversation with partner and just partner on it, and once name is decided then you tell people, or maybe even wait till baby is born so they can't argue it should be something else. Your baby, not theirs. Also, your husband doesn't have all the say in your child's name. You both must agree on it. Not the asshole. In my culture we name the kids after their grandparents, so my kids' names are basically pre-picked. They're super traditional. Don't love that, but whatever. I think he's being unreasonable. You've given him options and tried compromising and he's not trying. This is both your child and frankly, I hate when babies are named things like that. Nothing personal, just don't like it. Don't name your child something you dislike. Either he uses one of the names you told him, Constance, Felicity, which completely fit his tradition, or use them as a middle name. I'm probably the ass here because I'm 5 months pregnant and hate names like that and feel sorry for girls stuck with names like Inspiration and Lucky, lol. No offense to anyone named that. I just think they're significant other beyond corny. The family can pressure you all they want, but in the end, your womb, your rules. Not the asshole. WTF? They do realize these children have to live with these names until they're 40, right? Not the asshole. It's his family's tradition, not yours. I don't see why you have to continue it unless you want to. I do think this is something that should have been discussed early on in your relationship, since it seems to be very important to him and his family. Also, those names are hideous, lol. Please don't do that to your daughter. There are definitely better names that fit the theme, like Joy, Hope, Serenity, and some of the ones mentioned in other comments. And some people just need to come to terms that certain traditions need to be ended. Not the asshole. I personally despise virtue names. Face vomiting. Not the asshole. You're under no obligation. People are allowed to choose which traditions they're going to enjoy and participate in, and which ones they are. And this is one you aren't. Family sometimes get it in their head that the traditions they invented are non-negotiable expectations of other people, and that's ridiculous. Definitely not the asshole. Those names are awful. Children are terrible and will make fun of anyone with a different name. There are so many things to think about when choosing a name. I think perhaps middle name is a decent compromise. You don't have to discuss baby names with anyone before baby arrives. I'm 28 weeks pregnant and haven't shared names with family. People are so strangely opinionated about other people's children. Also, all this hoopla and you don't even know if it's a girl. You could have just stirred up years of drama for nothing. Esh. The likes of Grace could please both parties, no?